evening, Lotus Chat viewers. We are here tonight with an exciting topic. I'm Laura Benson with Mammoth Edge Coaching. And Zian, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And I'm Zian. Thank you so much for watching again.
We are so glad to have you here. Tonight, we're going to talk about pearls of wisdom. And the reason this is important is because we all learn various lessons throughout our life. And what we're doing is we're calling them pearls of wisdom. Pearls are a precious gem. And we think that wisdom is precious and something that's valuable. And when you learn things throughout, it's really important that you carry it with you. So Zian and I have been doing our homework. What have we learned from our past that we can share with you that has carried us through? So I'm going to let Zian start us off tonight with her first pearl of wisdom. Zian, we're all listening.
Thank you so much, Laura. So the first pearl of wisdom that I definitely have to credit would be for my parents. Both of them are huge proponents of being a giver. My mom especially, right from a really young age, she always emphasized, not just saying it, but actually demonstrating and showing it to me how important it is to give whatever we have within our own means. So down to the details, for example, she will buy food for the cleaners, the guards that we don't know, sometimes we pass by them, or even like people who are just really homeless and beggars begging for food. So she's very she's a huge one on that one, huge advocate, and encouraging me to do that. And I think I really took that from her. Like, while I see that when I was growing up, now that I am capable in my own means, I do that myself, like constantly buying food or drinks to those people. My dad, on the other hand, talks a lot about being a giver, and his huge pearl of wisdom is, it doesn't matter sometimes, especially in our line of training and coaching, sometimes we get to give knowledge, we get to share knowledge, and we may not get it back immediately from that person, but you never know how it comes from other places that you never thought about. So being a giver is huge from my parents. What about you, Laura?
Oh, I love that one. You've learned that, Zian. That is definitely you, being a giver. I think the first one that I learned was from my grandmother. She was a really big influence in my life. And she taught me the importance of loving people unconditionally. And that's not very easy to do because we're a society full of conditions. If you do this, then I'll do this.
Yes.
But she would just spend so much time with me and really formulated what it was I was thinking, invested in me, spent time with me, made sure I knew how special I was. And because of that, I've learned in my adult life how important it is to love the people in my life, mainly my son, other relationships that I have. And I can't tell you that I'm always perfect at it. But it's important to love people where they are and not where you want them to be. And I think that if we could do that more in our life, people would feel love more rather than feeling they have to earn it. So that's the first lesson I really remember from my grandmother.
Wow, I love that, Laura.
Tell me, what's your next pearl of wisdom, Zian?
Surprisingly, now that we're talking about this, I also realized that a lot of who we are right now came from those moments, right, when we were being taught and imparted pearls of wisdom. Yeah. The second one that was very strong with both of my parents is consistency. They are incredibly consistent. in everything that they do. So if they, for example, like my mom likes to bake and cook, and she'll be so consistent on it, and she will make sure that she gets the best out of that bread that she's doing or the brownie that she's baking, but she will make sure that she tries and fails so many times and being so consistent until she gets it right. And for my dad, like he's huge on work, and in his line of work in training, he is really one of the best, I would say, at what he does. And he advocates a lot about, giving your best, doing your best, and being very consistent in practicing that. Because how do you be the best if you are not consistent in practicing it? And both of them, in line with consistency, is very huge on completion. So, for example, I noticed even in myself, if I start a book, I gotta finish it. It's just, it will nag on me if I don't. I can't like close the chapter halfway. It doesn't work for me. Whether I like it or not, I have to complete it. So from there, I think that's when I also get this whole completion idea. I need to complete something, which has its pros and cons, I have to say. But yes, what about you, Laura?
Well, the audience is going to think I stole mine from you, but I didn't. But I learned from my dad consistency in a different way, though, than you described.
Wow.
I can clock my dad and his tasks and what he does. I can even tell you what his reaction will be. He is so consistent. There's never any doubt what he's going to say, how he's going to say it, and how measured he is, how thoughtful he is. I'll never forget my son got his first job at Starbucks. And my dad would go to the Starbucks where my son was working, and every morning at 9:30, he would go and sit there and have coffee while my son was working. Now, obviously, my son could not go and sit and talk, but it meant so much to my son at that time of his life. And my dad would do nothing but just sit there and drink coffee and read the paper. And everybody knew that my dad was there just to be close to Logan. And that is consistency. He didn't do it one day and say, well, Logan didn't have enough time for me, so I'm not ever going to do it again. He just went every day, to the point Logan would time his breaks and would actually buy my dad coffee when he came in, because it was a consistent practice. And I've learned that from him. And it's important to be consistent in reaction. It's important. No one wants a person that's inconsistent, and you never know what you're going to get. The other thing is, when you build consistency, people know you care. People know that you really are in it for the long haul, not the short term. And so consistency is something I continue to work on, and I continue to take as a real top value in my life, because I've seen what consistent behavior does, and it attracts people to you. What's your next pearl of wisdom, Zian?
It's amazing how we didn't discuss this, and both of our first two is quite similar. I love it.
I know.
Yeah. My third one would be something that was being instilled when I was very young by my own grandmother. She has this thing about strictly no snoozing. It was a order from my mom, because mom goes out to work, so she don't really wakes us up, but then my grandmother does that. And so she has this very strict habit that there's no snoozing. So when 8:30 wake up, there's no like lying down till 9 o'clock, no such thing. 8:30 wakes up means you get out of the bed. But you can sleep again at 9:30 if you want, but 8:30 a.m. you have to get up. So I think that really, it really, that's how I function too right now. Like when I wake up, there's no like lying down or snoozing. It just goes up right away. So it's amazing how these things like carry on to your adulthood. Yeah. And with that, I think one of the common thing among my grandmother and both my parents is waking up very early in the morning, and the morning routine, the morning time is seen as very precious, and we are all very morning people. I start my day at 4 a.m. and that's when my mind works like optimum. Is the best. I absorb every piece of information, articles, things that I read like really quickly, very quickly. So I'm a really morning person. Sometimes I think that I work best in PST time zone, but but yeah. What about yours?
I can tell you that's not one of mine. I am a snoozer, so yeah, I won't even go there.
Okay.
One thing that I learned from both sets of grandparents is have a faith. Not obviously they each of them had their own faith in God and their own commitment, but they were very clear that you have to have faith in something bigger than yourself. That if it's all about just you and nobody else, it's a very lonely existence. But if you're working to the greater good and you're working towards something that is bigger than you, then life has extra meaning. I can honestly tell you that all four of my grandparents, when they passed peacefully because they were convinced they were going somewhere special, somewhere even better. And I realized that the audience we're talking to has many different faiths, many different beliefs. And this is really about making sure that you have a faith and making sure that you know that you're a part of a bigger plan and that you are an important part of that plan. And that has been very important in my life, to look on the outside of myself and to see that I fit into something that's meaningful. That I'm just not an accident. I'm just not here because. And what was interesting is all four of my grandparents lived their life every day as if they were part of a bigger purpose. You would think, well, were they like government agents or what? No, they were blue collar workers, and but they still believed that they were part of something greater and that they were going to a better place when they left this earth. And that meant so much to me that they taught me that. So that's a pearl of wisdom that is very steeped in my life and in my growing up.
Wow.
How about you, Cian?
I love that. I love that. I guess that's it from me, to be honest, for this week. And also, I wanted to encourage the listeners out there who's actually listening to this, that whatever pearls of wisdom that we're sharing is just meant to inspire and empower you. But is there anything else you'd like to share, Laura?
There's just one more thing. I learned this actually as an adult. Love yourself. I used to think that was selfish, but when you look for it on the outside, you never get what you're looking for. And if it comes from the inside, you're able to provide yourself that love, and that love emanates to the people around you. So make sure that you love yourself and learn how to bring that from the inside instead of looking for it in other people who don't know how to give it. But with that being said, I have a lot more. We could go for a lot longer, but I think for this session, I think we're doing just fine. So I will close as well.
Great. And maybe if there are some viewer comments who love to listen more from us, we can do another episode on this one. Yeah, but for now, I hope what you're listening so far is inspiring you, and that's really our theme weekly, where we want to gather together to empower women collectively. So if you're listening on this on YouTube, I encourage you to click subscribe, and if you're listening on this on Spotify, click follow. Thank you so much for listening to us. And the question we have for you this week is where that pearl of wisdom came from. And the question I have for you this week is, what pearls of wisdom did you learn that is still an active part of your life? So I want to encourage you to share and drop in your comments or email us at lotuschatworldwide@gmail.com. Signing off, I'm Zian.
And I'm Laura. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
Yes.